People often believe that if they give more, text more, explain more, love harder, and become constantly available, they will become impossible to lose. It sounds logical. After all, if someone sees your effort every single day, surely they'll appreciate it. But psychology tells a very different story. Human attraction has never been built on endless pursuit. In fact, when one person is always chasing, the other often stops moving altogether. What begins as love slowly turns into predictability, and predictability often weakens emotional excitement. That's why one of the most powerful things you can do is surprisingly simple. Stop doing so much. This doesn't mean becoming cold, distant, or manipulative. It doesn't mean ignoring messages just to create drama or pretending you don't care when you actually do. Doing less is not about playing games. It's about refusing to make someone the center of your world before they've earned that place. It's about allowing your presence to have value instead of making it available every second of every day. Think about how many people spend relationships trying to remove every obstacle. They text first every morning. They send goodnight messages every night. They always make the plans. They always apologize first. They always ask how he's feeling, while no one asks how they're feeling. They explain every misunderstanding before he even has the chance to think about it. They try to solve every silence before silence has done its job. They believe they're proving love, but often they're simply removing every opportunity for the other person to invest. Investment is the foundation of emotional attachment. People naturally value what they help build. When a man has to think about you, wonder about you, plan for you, and make an effort to keep you in his life, he becomes emotionally involved in the relationship. But if you constantly do all the emotional work for both of you, he never develops that same level of investment. He enjoys the benefits without experiencing the effort that creates deeper attachment. This is why constant availability can unintentionally reduce curiosity. If he already knows you'll answer within seconds, cancel your plans for him, rearrange your life whenever he calls, and always be waiting, there is very little left for him to discover. Mystery isn't about hiding who you are. It's about allowing someone to continue learning you over time, instead of handing them your entire emotional world all at once. Confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't send 5 messages because one wasn't answered immediately. Confidence quietly says, I have a beautiful life and I'm inviting you into it, not abandoning it for you. That kind of energy is magnetic because it communicates self-respect. It tells people that your happiness isn't dependent on their validation. Ironically, the less you chase, the more space you create for genuine connection. Instead of forcing conversations, you allow them to happen naturally. Instead of constantly seeking reassurance, you observe consistency. Instead of proving your worth, you simply live it. And people are always more convinced by what they experience than by what they're repeatedly told. The truth is, attraction grows best when there's room for anticipation. Anticipation creates excitement. Excitement creates emotional engagement. When every interaction is immediate and constant, there is little opportunity for either person to miss the other. Absence isn't dangerous when the connection is healthy. It often reminds people of the value they already have. So stop believing that loving harder always means doing more. Sometimes the strongest message you can send is that you trust your own value enough not to overextend yourself. Let him wonder sometimes. Let him initiate. Let him experience what your presence means instead of making it endlessly available. Because the woman who knows when to step back is often the woman who is remembered the most. And that is where real attraction sings in, not in chasing, but in quiet confidence. One of the hardest things for people to do in relationships is simply remain silent. The moment communication slows down, anxiety begins to speak. You start wondering if you said something wrong, if he's losing interest, or if you should send another message just to keep the connection alive. So you text again. You explain yourself. You ask if everything is okay. You try to fill every quiet moment with words because silence feels uncomfortable. But here's the psychological truth that changes everything. Silence often accomplishes what endless conversation never can. When you constantly explain yourself, you're not giving someone time to think. When you answer every question before it's asked, you're not allowing curiosity to grow. And when you rush to erase every uncomfortable pause, you're also removing the opportunity for someone to genuinely miss you. The human mind processes emotions in space, not in noise. Reflection requires quiet. Many people confuse communication with connection. They believe that talking more automatically creates closeness. But emotional attachment isn't built by the number of messages exchanged. It's built by the emotional meaning behind those interactions. Someone can text you all day and still never truly think about you. Another person can go a few hours without hearing from you and suddenly realize how much your presence matters. This is why emotionally secure people don't panic when there is silence. They understand that healthy relationships don't require constant reassurance. They trust that genuine interest doesn't disappear because one conversation ends. They allow life to happen between interactions, and that makes every interaction feel more valuable. Imagine constantly watering a plant every few minutes because you're afraid it might dry out. Eventually, you don't help it grow. You drown it. Relationships work in a similar way. Constant emotional attention can overwhelm natural attraction. Every relationship needs moments where each person returns to their own life, their own thoughts, and their own identity. Those moments aren't signs of distance. They're opportunities for appreciation. Silence also reveals something incredibly important. Who is willing to meet you halfway? If you're always the one starting conversations, making plans, checking in, and carrying the emotional weight, you'll never know whether the relationship is balanced. Sometimes stepping back isn't about creating distance. It's about allowing reality to reveal itself. If someone values your presence, they will notice your absence. If they care about maintaining the connection, they'll contribute to it. There's another reason silence is so powerful. It communicates confidence without saying a single word. When you're comfortable not chasing every conversation, you're quietly telling the world that your peace doesn't depend on constant validation. You have your own schedule, your own purpose, your own joy. You're not waiting by the phone hoping someone remembers you. You're living your life fully, and that's deeply attractive because emotional stability creates a sense of safety. Of course, silence should never become punishment. It should never be used to manipulate someone into feeling guilty or anxious. Healthy silence is peaceful, not passive-aggressive. It's the silence of someone who respects both themselves and the other person. It leaves room for natural effort instead of forced interaction. Ironically, when you stop trying to occupy every moment of someone's attention, you often begin occupying more of their thoughts. They remember your laugh, replay your conversations, wonder what you're doing, and look forward to hearing from you again. Not because you disappeared, but because you gave them the chance to experience your absence. And absence, when balanced with genuine connection, has a remarkable way of revealing value. So don't fear every quiet moment. Sometimes the strongest connection is built not by what you say, but by what you wisely leave unsaid. And that's when silence becomes one of your greatest strengths. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they fall in love is slowly allowing their own life to disappear. At first, it happens in small ways. You skip a workout because he wants to talk. You cancel plans with friends because he suddenly becomes available. You stop pursuing goals that once excited you because your attention is constantly focused on the relationship. Without realizing it, your world becomes smaller while his becomes the center of everything. It may feel like love, but psychologically, it often creates an unhealthy imbalance. Real attraction isn't created by making someone your entire world. It's created by showing that your world is already full, meaningful, and exciting. People are naturally drawn to those who have purpose beyond the relationship. A person who is growing, learning, creating, and enjoying life sends a powerful message without ever saying a word. I am responsible for my own happiness. That kind of energy is incredibly attractive because it reflects emotional independence. It tells someone that you're choosing to be with them, not depending on them to complete you. There's a significant difference between wanting someone and needing someone. Wanting is healthy because it comes from abundance. Needing often comes from fear, and fear has a way of changing behavior. It makes people overthink every message, seek constant reassurance, and sacrifice parts of themselves just to avoid losing someone. When your life revolves around another person, every small change feels enormous. If he takes longer to reply, your entire mood changes. If he's busy for one day, you feel ignored. If he has other priorities, you begin questioning your value. But when your own life is rich with purpose, friendships, passions, and personal goals, one delayed message doesn't shake your confidence because your identity isn't built around someone else's attention psychologically. People admire those who respect their own lives. Think about the individuals you naturally find inspiring. They're usually not sitting around waiting for someone to call them. They're working towards something meaningful. They're investing in their health. They're spending time with people they love. They're learning new skills. They're building a future. Their confidence isn't performative. It's the natural result of having a life that fulfills them. This doesn't mean becoming so independent that you push people away. Love still requires effort, communication, and shared experiences. But healthy love should add to your life, not replace it. The relationship should become part of your journey, not your entire identity. When two emotionally healthy people come together, they don't abandon themselves. They bring two complete lives into one meaningful connection. There's another powerful psychological principle at work here. People often value what appears valuable to others, including yourself. When you prioritize your growth, you're silently communicating that your time, energy, and dreams matter. You stop asking for permission to pursue your ambitions. You stop feeling guilty for investing in yourself. And that quiet self-respect changes the way others perceive you. They begin to see someone who has standards, direction, and purpose. Ironically, the less your happiness depends on one person, the more enjoyable your presence becomes. You're no longer bringing pressure into every interaction. You're bringing peace. You're not asking someone to carry the weight of your emotional well-being because you've already learned to carry it yourself. That freedom creates healthier, more genuine attraction because it allows love to grow naturally instead of being driven by insecurity. So keep building your career, keep nurturing your friendships, keep exploring your passions. Keep becoming the person you dreamed of being long before anyone entered your life. Because the strongest relationships are built between two people who already know how to stand on their own, and that's when love becomes a choice instead of a necessity. There comes a moment in many relationships when people stop being themselves and start becoming salespeople. Instead of simply living as they are, they begin trying to convince someone of their value. They explain how loyal they are. They remind the other person how much they've sacrificed. They point out everything they've done to prove their love. They hope that if they just say enough, do enough, or give enough, the other person will finally appreciate them. But here's what psychology teaches us. Genuine appreciation cannot be forced. The more you try to convince someone to value you, the more you communicate that you don't fully believe in your own value. Think about it. Truly confident people rarely feel the need to advertise themselves. They don't constantly remind others how kind, supportive, or loving they are. Those qualities become obvious through consistent actions. Confidence allows your character to speak for itself. Insecurity, on the other hand, often feels compelled to explain, justify, and defend every part of who you are. Many relationships become exhausting because one person spends all their energy trying to earn what should be freely given: respect, attention, consistency, and care. They believe that if they become more patient, more understanding, or more forgiving, eventually they'll receive the love they've been waiting for. But love isn't a reward for endless sacrifice. Healthy relationships aren't built on convincing someone to treat you well. They're built on two people who naturally choose to do so. This is why emotionally strong people pay close attention to actions instead of promises. Words are easy. Almost anyone can promise change, express affection, or make beautiful declarations in emotional moments. But actions reveal priorities. If someone repeatedly shows inconsistency, lack of effort, or disrespect, no amount of explaining your worth will suddenly transform their behavior. Sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is accepting what someone's actions have already told you. Doing less doesn't mean caring less. It means stopping the habit of overproving yourself. It means resisting the urge to write long emotional paragraphs every time you're misunderstood. It means not constantly defending your intentions when your behavior has already been honest. It means trusting that the right person won't require endless evidence of your value, because they'll recognize it through your everyday presence. There's a quiet strength in allowing people to reveal who they truly are. Instead of chasing explanations, observe patterns. Instead of arguing over potential, pay attention to consistency. Instead of hoping someone becomes different, notice who they are repeatedly showing themselves to be. This shift changes everything because your focus moves away from changing another person and toward protecting your own peace. Psychologically, people also tend to respect boundaries they cannot easily cross. When someone realizes that you won't endlessly tolerate poor treatment, your standards become clear. You're no longer negotiating your self-worth. You're simply living according to it. And whether they rise to meet those standards or choose to walk away, you've gained something valuable: clarity. One of the greatest signs of emotional maturity is understanding that rejection doesn't always mean you're lacking. Sometimes it simply means two people are not aligned. Not everyone will appreciate your qualities, and that's okay. Your kindness doesn't become less valuable because one person overlooked it. Your loyalty doesn't lose its meaning because someone failed to recognize it. Your worth was never meant to be determined by another person's ability to see it. When you stop trying to convince someone to value you, something remarkable happens. You become calmer. You stop overthinking every interaction. You stop chasing validation. You begin choosing relationships where appreciation flows naturally instead of constantly fighting for it. And that quiet confidence becomes far more attractive than any desperate attempt to prove yourself ever could. Because the moment you stop asking people to recognize your value is often the moment your self-respect becomes impossible to ignore. One of the greatest misunderstandings about love is the belief that the more tightly you hold on to someone, the less likely they are to leave. It feels instinctive. When you care deeply about someone, you naturally want more communication, more time together, more reassurance, and more certainty. But human psychology often works in the opposite direction. Genuine love cannot be forced, pressured, or monitored into existence. It grows strongest when both people feel free to choose each other every single day. Think about any meaningful decision you've ever made in your life. The choices that felt most satisfying were probably the ones you made freely, not the ones you were pushed into. Relationships are no different. People value what they willingly invest in. When someone feels like they have the freedom to reach for you, pursue you, and choose you without constant pressure, their emotional commitment often becomes much stronger. This is why trying to control every aspect of a relationship usually creates the very outcome people fear. Constantly asking, "Do you still love me?" Checking whether messages have been read, questioning every change in mood, demanding immediate replies, or expecting every free moment to be spent together slowly transforms love into obligation. Instead of feeling excited to connect, the other person may begin feeling responsible for managing your anxiety. That emotional weight can make even healthy relationships feel exhausting. Creating space doesn't mean becoming emotionally unavailable. It doesn't mean disappearing for days or pretending not to care. It simply means allowing each person to remain an individual while also building a life together. Healthy love doesn't erase personal freedom. It protects it. Both people should still have friendships, personal goals, family relationships, quiet moments, and interests that exist outside the relationship. Those experiences don't weaken love, they enrich it. Psychologically, absence has an interesting effect when the foundation of a relationship is healthy. When someone isn't constantly present, the mind naturally begins to reflect. Memories become more vivid. Appreciation grows. Small moments become meaningful. People often don't realize how much someone's presence adds to their life until they have enough space to notice the difference. That's why healthy distance isn't the enemy of love. Sometimes it's the reminder of love's value. Creating emotional space also means resisting the urge to solve every uncertainty immediately. Not every delayed response is a sign of rejection. Not every quiet days means feelings have disappeared. Emotionally mature people learn to tolerate uncertainty without rushing to create dramatic conclusions. They give situations time to unfold before assuming the worst. That patience protects both the relationship and their own peace of mind. Another powerful benefit of giving space is that it allows authentic effort to appear. If you're constantly reminding someone to call, asking them to make plans, or encouraging them to show affection, you'll never know what they would naturally choose to do on their own. But when you stop managing every interaction, people's true intentions become much clearer. Those who genuinely value the relationship usually step forward willingly. Those who don't reveal that as well. Either outcome gives you clarities instead of confusion. Perhaps the most attractive quality of all is emotional security. A secure person enjoys love without trying to imprison it. They understand that trust creates stronger bonds than control ever could. They know that affection offered freely carries far more meaning than affection demanded through pressure. They don't spend every day trying to prevent someone from leaving. Instead, they focus on becoming someone whose presence naturally enriches another person's life. Ironically, the less you try to force someone to choose you, the more meaningful their choice becomes. A relationship built on freedom creates deeper trust because both people know they're there by genuine desire, not obligation. And when love is freely chosen, instead of constantly controlled, it has the strongest chance to grow into something lasting. Because the deepest connections are never held together by pressure. They are strengthened by the freedom to choose each other again and again. After everything we've talked about, there is one final truth that brings all of these ideas together. The goal was never to learn clever techniques that make someone fall in love with you. It was never about becoming mysterious just to capture someone's attention or doing less simply to manipulate emotions. Those things might create temporary curiosity, but they cannot build lasting love. The real transformation begins when you stop asking, "How do I make someone choose me?" and start asking, "Have I truly chosen myself?" That question changes everything. Many people spend years believing their happiness is waiting on someone else's decision. They believe life will finally feel complete when one particular person texts back, commits changes, apologizes, or realizes what they lost. Until then, they put their own dreams on hold. Their confidence rises and falls with someone else's attention. Their peace depends on someone else's mood. But living this way gives away the greatest power you have, the ability to define your own worth. The woman who has chosen herself doesn't wake up every morning wondering how to become enough for someone else. She already knows she is enough. That doesn't mean she believes she's perfect. It means she understands that her value doesn't disappear because someone fails to recognize it. She continues growing, learning, healing, and improving, not to become worthy of love, but because she already believes she is worthy. This mindset completely changes the way relationships are experienced. Instead of entering every connection hoping not to be abandoned, she enters with curiosity. She asks herself whether this person brings peace, respect, consistency, and kindness into her life. She no longer tries to fit into someone else's expectations by shrinking her personality or ignoring her own needs. She understands that love should never require her to betray herself. Psychologically, this creates an extraordinary shift in energy. People who are emotionally secure don't radiate desperation. They radiate calm. They're able to enjoy closeness without becoming consumed by it. They celebrate love without fearing every possible ending. Their confidence comes from within, so rejection, while painful, doesn't destroy their identity. They know that one person's inability to love them properly is not proof that they are unlovable. This inner security also changes how others respond to them. When someone meets a woman who genuinely enjoys her own life, respects herself, and refuses to chase validation, they sense authenticity. She isn't trying to impress everyone. She isn't competing for attention. She isn't pretending to be someone she's not. There's something deeply attractive about a person who feels comfortable in their own skin because authenticity creates trust, and trust creates emotional safety. Ironically, this is often when love finds its strongest foundation, not because she worked harder to earn it, but because she stopped making love her only source of fulfillment. She learned that a relationship should complement an already meaningful life, not replace it. She discovered that self-respect naturally shapes the kind of relationships she accepts. She no longer settles for inconsistency because loneliness is no longer more frightening than losing herself, and perhaps the greatest reward is peace. The endless overthinking begins to fade. The constant need for reassurance becomes quieter. The fear of not being enough slowly disappears because it is replaced with something far more powerful, self-trust. You begin believing that whatever happens, you will be okay because you have built a life, an identity, and a sense of worth that no one else can take away. So remember this above all else. The most magnetic version of you is not the one who does the most to be loved. It's the one who knows her own value so deeply that love becomes something she shares, not something she desperately seeks. And that is the quiet power that changes everything.